I'm building a 3 million block adventure map that transports you to a mysterious island infected with dark magic. By following the story and completing challenges, you'll be able to restore the island and discover its secrets. The island was created using World Painter, which is linked in the description, and I will also be using World Edit to help me along. I'm Jade the Willow, and I don't know about you, but I love a happy ending. However, things have to get worse before they get better. Last we left off, you were headed out of the mysterious tower, and if you follow the path, it will bring you here, where there's nothing yet. We're going to be building a farmhouse and discovering the site of the first dark magic that was performed on the island. I stuck with the same color palette that we used for the good version of the tower last time. That's right, we need a good and evil version of each build we make. As you journey through the island, you'll be able to complete challenges to heal the land. Our good version palette has lots of warm colors. We have browns and tans and the colors of a sunrise that we're going to use for the roof. All right, I'm not really happy with how this is progressing. I thought it would be fun to add this almost Victorian style porch, but it's not. It's way too messy. I do like the roof line. It's just not quite enough impact. And ignore the house floating in the background. I was trying some stuff out. Back here, even though it looks fine, it just doesn't fit with the elven style at all. It's just there, staring at me, asking what I was thinking when I built it. I added in this pointy tapered edge on the window gables, which connects to the tower. However, the whole thing is just very standard, and I'm trying to push myself and my building a little bit more with this project. The tower was very angular. Well, I was rounded angular, but either way, it doesn't really tie in. But at the same time, I do want weird curves on my roof. So, do I match the tower or adjust as I go? That's okay. We're trying stuff out. We're adjusting. That's fine. I think I'm going to start completely over. Yep. I felt much more confident going into the second house. I learned a lot from the first build. That being said, this whole building took me about a week to figure out, which feels very long, and maybe that's because I had to run an art camp during that time, or maybe the wires in my brain just weren't connecting. Who knows? Not me. I thought the sandstone helped balance out all of the browns, and it switched things up a bit for, your eyes. It helps the house feel like it has lots of different parts rather than being one big blob. Though I will say it's a pretty fancy farmhouse, but this is a fantasy world, and this is one of the few farms on the island, so I'm sure they make a good amount of money. I spent a really long time fiddling around with different roof decorations, and I had to keep in mind that I needed something that looked happy in these warm colors, but might look more ominous when it was in its dark magic state. This one I thought was funny though, because it looks like a gingerbread house. I have a new thought. Ignore the rest of the build because it doesn't match, but I like this curved bit more than anything else I've done on the roof, even though it doesn't match the angular tower style. And the easiest way I find to build a castle or a city is to find some sort of key element or design to repeat throughout your buildings, which I've been struggling with so far. But this way it'll make, when you look at it, you'll say, yes, this is a cohesive project. So I think the curve part will flow okay into this not quite pointy fantasy roof line. And now I have 3 different styles going on in the roof. And that's too many, especially for this size build. Our poor eyes are so confused. It has ears. Oh no. I made yet another copy of the house to continue experimenting on. I tried pulling in the dark oak elements I used from the tower. For example, the 3-block base I used on my side room and the slabs that run along the roof trim. You can also see that I moved the gradient direction on the roof. I just thought it was a little more interesting here to have it go diagonal, and I think it helps the roof feel a lot more interesting in general without actually having to move any blocks. And I designed a window. It's very cozy, but it matches the curved roof line, so we're going to call it good. Okay, finally, it's at a place I'm happy with. I don't tend to add tons of little details to my builds, but I like how this is filling things out. I tried adding a little bit more when finishing things off than I usually do, because that's what I wanted. There's just a couple extra things like borders. I'm happy with it. I like how all of the roof pieces flow together. I think that's pretty good, and roofs are always a very big struggle if you couldn't tell. I wanted to take a break from building to create the surrounding abandoned fields. This farmer focuses on crops, and therefore we have lots of fields. When this is restored, because, well, I built the building in the happy version, the landscaping is all dark magic-y. But when it's restored, the soil will be replaced with grass, and it's up to you, or whoever moves back to the island, to replant and cultivate the fields. Like we said, just because you got rid of the effect of the dark magic doesn't mean that all of the inhabitants suddenly popped into existence. That they left. They didn't. Anyway, moving on. We've got fields, but everything else is bland and blank. Oh, look, trees! These are a continuation of the forest we started last episode. Oh, goodness. I guess I'm not used to these being here. They're pretty sparse since this isn't the forest area. It's just an area with trees. But next we do the ground. Isn't that lovely, or deadly, as it were? Oh my goodness, I should definitely put little traps around the island as a show of how the dark magic has made this place unsafe to live in. That would be such a good idea. Same as the trees, everything is carried over from our design last episode. The only thing it's missing is rocks and mangrove root bushes and traps. We need traps. I also want to put in monsters, but we'll get to that at a later point. If you follow the path from the tower, it will lead you along here to the farm. I do plan on having another offshoot along this road, but it doesn't exist yet. The story should still make sense if you go out of order. Essentially, you'll be finding journal entries as you move around. Apparently, journaling is very important in this community since everybody does it. Okay, I was finally feeling ready to finish the barn buildings. I just transferred the same architecture elements over to these builds, and they came together much faster than the house, though they are pretty extravagant barns. That's all for the good buildings, unless I think of something else. The small barn has a really funky front design, but I decided to leave it. So say bye to the sunrise house. We're transforming them into dark magic versions. Oh, it's so chaotic. This is the first time I'm actually taking it in. I wasn't really paying attention when I was switching everything out. Well, I guess it'll be good motivation to restore things. The birch trapdoors really put it over the top for me. Also, I'm struggling with the decorations a little bit. I'd like you to unlock things as you go along and be rewarded for exploring. So I don't want to use things like furnaces or looms to decorate because I'd like you to only have access in certain relevant places. We can't have you making banners all over the place because that would cause problems somehow. Probably. Anyway, the farmhouse is where you have access to a furnace though, and there's coal hidden out in the barn and a few other things scattered around. But most exciting, up in this study area is where you'll find the next part of the story. The journal of the people who live in the house reads, "What we hoped were rain clouds in the distance proved to be a disappointment. The king has sent out another limitation on food rations. If someone doesn't find a way to bring in water soon, I fear this drought will be the end of us. Apparently, the High Mage has been working on a solution. I wish he'd hurry it up already. His meager attempts to pull water out of the air and into our fields haven't made any difference. He says he can't make something out of nothing. I don't know about all that magic stuff, but he's got to figure something out. My husband was out late tonight, but when he got home, he was almost giddy. He said he made a deal with the High Mage, and they have a plan to restore the fields. I'd make a deal with the devil at this point if I thought it would help. The fields are saved, but we noticed a dark mark on the land. Though I don't care, I will do anything to keep the crops alive." And that is everything we get to learn from this farmhouse. If you're enjoying the story and the build so far, consider giving this video a thumbs up or subscribing. And subscribing. We can't skip over how you actually save this area though. Since it's a farm, I thought it would be good for the solution to revolve around plants, crops. So you need to prove that the land can support crops. By searching the surrounding areas, you'll find some beetroot seeds hidden in a bush, some potatoes, some classic wheat seeds, gotta have those, and carrots. Once you find everything, you'll come back to this area, which along with a mention at the end of a journal page will clue you in as to what you need to do. So if you plant everything in the correct spot, and only if it's in the correct spot, the area will be transformed into the restored version. Bye-bye, dark magic. I just can't implement the command yet. I will later. You're just gonna have to trust me. If you saw my last episode, you may remember me saying we'd have to come up with some sort of magic tree to add to the landscape because I felt like it was missing something. Well, along those lines, we're going to add a little mark everywhere that a dark magic spell was cast. A little additional blight on the land to show us that something bad happened. Because at first, our villagers don't realize the effect that things are having, but we'll cover that in more detail in future episodes. First, we gotta destroy the grass. No growth in evil places. I wanted that kind of like creepy, cracked idea. I was worried it would look a little too much like a star, but it definitely does not. It's not too large. It's just a little bit of like darkness was performed here. I have the cat walking on the keyboard, cat walking on the keyboard. It was looking a little flat. Now we have some layers and it's more interesting. It also kind of creeps me out, but oh well. And then over here, tucked away, you'll find a little log or a little journal note from our hero, which says, "Everyone I've talked to has said the Hasten farm was the first to be healed. After looking around, I noticed some dark spots that I've seen elsewhere on the island. And even though their plants were growing again, the well is still dry and the leaves are a little wilted. The Hastens say they weren't present when the High Mage used magic to rejuvenate their fields, but they were happy when the sun rose and they saw green. However, I noticed that at the very edges of their property, many of the plants looked especially dead. Even the dirt seemed to be drained of life." So you know how we mentioned traps earlier. So I thought, why don't we use the pressure plates that we already have scattered all over to create our traps. And I didn't really create a trap. It's just a minor inconvenience. But I thought it would startle you a little bit if you're just walking along and then boop, the ground pops up. So it's a work in progress. So if you have any trap ideas that aren't killing or lava, let me know, because this is kind of pathetic if you're talking a trap. But I just want it to be atmospheric, and I feel like this is just a little something, I don't know, work in progress. We'll see. And that rounds out the dark magic infused area. I think I need a more concise name for that. And here's the good land. We have more colors, more plants, everything is happier. The traps will be gone and the area will be ready for the inhabitants to come back. Next episode, we'll meet more of the inhabitants. I'm thinking I'd like to start on the village. It's very exciting. And we'll connect a couple dots in our storyline. This episode and the first episode kind of come at the story from two different sides, so next one will tie things in together. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye!